What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and I know I've been late on this one, and you guys have probably already seen the unofficial depth chart for the New York Giants. I'm sorry I didn't get around to doing that video. I have a new job, and it's a hard job. So as soon as I come home, I'm asleep, and then I get ready to work again. So I have some time today, and I'm gonna be doing this unofficial depth chart. I'll put the image up there, and I'll probably put myself in a small little corner area so you guys can still see me while we go over this. But we're gonna go over this unofficial depth chart. I'm gonna give you my thoughts on it, and then hopefully we'll have a good game tonight against the Cleveland Browns. I wanted to do a live for that event, but we'll see what happens. I wanted to go, live stream for that, but we'll see what happens. I probably won't do it. I'll probably do it next time we play. I don't know who we play next time, but I'll try to go live then. Let's get right onto the unofficial depth chart for the New York Giants. Now, keep in mind, this is the unofficial depth chart. That's why they say that, even though it's made by the Giants themselves. It's unofficial in aspect of this isn't the final depth chart that you're gonna see if it was a 53-man roster. Like John Jalapeno at center probably won't happen. I heard that he's doing well, but I'm sure they're just testing him out. Other guys you see there, you never know, Kareem Martin or Connor Barwin, they switch and Connor Barwin's the starter. Or Curtis Riley, you don't know if Darian Thompson's getting the start. And William Gay at safety instead of corner. They could be just trying stuff out, so that's why it's an unofficial depth chart. So let's start off with the quarterbacks, and let's start off with Eli Manning. Obviously, he is the starting quarterback. We've got Davis Webb, who's been absolutely killing it so far in training camp, and ever since the beginning of the offseason when practices started, Davis Webb has pretty much been on point the entire time. And then we look at Kyle Lauletta, who hasn't really been making too much noise. I know he's made a couple plays, but nothing in comparison to Davis Webb and how he's doing. And then you got Alex Tanney, who is Alex Tanney. So we now move on to the running backs. We got Saquon Barkley as the starter. This kind of surprised me just a little bit, being that last year, this was a different era with Jerry Reese, with Ben McAdoo. But I'm pretty sure Tom Coughlin did the same thing. Rookies weren't awarded the starting role so quickly unless they really needed to. They really weren't awarded the starting role immediately. You look at last year, for example, Evan Ingram, he was not the starter in the first preseason game. It was Rhett Ellison. We all knew who was going to start week 1, in the regular season, but they never award the starters. They never award the rookie as starters just yet, but they're doing that this week with Saquon Barkley. He is the starting running back for the Giants. We got Jonathan Stewart right behind him. Then we've got Wayne Gallman, Robert Martin, Jalen Simmons, and Shane Smith. But Shane Smith is a fullback, and he's pretty much the only fullback on this roster. If you want to include Rhett Ellison on there, you can, but he is basically our starting fullback right now. We then move on to wide receivers. Now, there's 2 wide receivers. They don't have, the 2 outside wide receivers in a slot like sometimes they do. They just have 2 sets of wide receivers. So we've got Odell Beckham in the first slot. Then we got Sterling Shepard in the second. They kick off their starters for those 2 slots at wide receiver. And, do we have a specific slot receiver? Not really. But our third wide receiver, I assume, is Cody Latimer. And then it goes Hunter Sharp, which is very surprising that it's not Roger Lewis or Russell Shepard. Then we have Russell Shepard and Roger Lewis. Then Khalif Raymond, Jawill Davis. And then we have Travis Rudolph, who's all the way in the bottom. We haven't seen anything of Travis Rudolph so far, which is surprising because last year he was a preseason star and a fan favorite. And we all wanted to see Travis Rudolph make this roster. He did a bit eventually. I believe week 5 was his debut last year against the Denver Broncos. We won that game, but he did nothing in that game. Then you got Alonzo Russell right behind Travis Rudolph. And then you have Amba Edetawo and Marquise Bundy. I'm really pushing for Amba Edetawo. He's not looking too good right now, being that he's all the way at the bottom of the roster. But I want him to make this roster because we just need a bigger wide receiver. Cody Latimer is our biggest guy at 6'3". I believe Amba Edetawo is 6'4", 6'5", somewhere in that range. He's a lanky wide receiver. We need a big, tall wide receiver like Amba Edetawo. I just need him to step up just a little bit. And then We move on to the tight ends. We have Evan Ingram. We have two sets of tight ends. Evan Ingram, Rhett Ellison, Jarrell Adams, who's been making plays in this training camp. I'm very excited about Jarrell Adams. I want to see him, provide that extra firepower when we bring in extra tight ends on the field. Someone to get attention away from Evan Ingram, and hopefully Jarrell Adams is that guy. Then we have Scott Simonson, Ryan O'Malley, and Garrett Dickerson. We then move on to the offensive line, where I'm just going to go through the starting guys, and we'll go over the bench. Starting at left tackle, Nate Solder. Left guard, Will Hernandez. Center, John Jalapeno, which is interesting. Right guard, Patrick Omameh. I knew that for sure. Madden guessed it wrong. Madden thought that he would be a left guard behind Will Hernandez, but that is not the case. I believe all Giants fans knew that already, but Madden didn't get that right. EA did not get that right. But as you can see, Patrick Omameh is the starting right guard, and starting right tackle is Eric Flowers. Now, I'm not going to completely drink the Kool-Aid on Eric Flowers because a lot of people are saying he's looked better than he's ever been. But we've seen that kind of quote before from Eric Flowers the past few years, that he's having great practices and this and that, this and that. But they're seeming to hype him up a lot more than usual. Like I said, I'm not too sure. I've never played that position, so I'm not too sure how big of an impact the left side is than the right side. I know you kind of have to translate all your technique from one side to the other, which takes a little time to adjust, or it seems to be a natural fit and you're just good at that. So Eric Flowers there at right tackle, I heard that he's doing well. We'll see what happens. But I'm very excited. I'm very excited for this offensive line. I heard that in training camp that, the running backs are having great days because of the offensive line. Just a quick disclaimer, don't completely, take that with a grain of salt. They're not playing full, they're playing full pads, but they're not playing to their full potential in these practices. I believe it's called the CBA. The CBA kind of does not allow that kind of stuff. I believe it's the acronym CBA. Does not allow those kind of practices. They don't allow those hard-hitting practices because they're trying to avoid injuries, but little do they know it's actually creating injuries because these guys are just not used to getting tackled all that often, but it's just not like that anymore. So you guys, the trenches are hard to evaluate when it comes to these practices and this offensive line. It's hard to evaluate an offensive line in practices. We then move on to the bench. I'm going to go over the more notable names on the bench. You've got Brett Jones, who really played well in absence of Weston Richburg while he was gone and really filled in well. I don't know what is the issue now that he's struggling with competing with John Jalapeno, but let the best guy win is my motto. So we'll see what happens with Brett Jones. We then move on to John Greco at left guard. He is a perfect backup guard, a swing guard, someone you can throw out anywhere you want. He has experience. It's like Will Hernandez or Patrick Omameh never left. He can provide a good backup role for there's a lot of teams out there with not so much good guards out there in the backup spot. So John Greco fills that nicely. John Jerry now is the backup right guard, who was formerly the starter for the Giants at right guard for the past 3 years now. He lost that job to Patrick Omameh, and I say great. John Jerry is a average guard. He doesn't do anything special, and yet he doesn't really disappoint too much. I've seen him get pancaked a couple times, but that's all part of the game. John Jerry is just not that good of a guard. I'm pretty sure he accepts that. Everybody else accepts that. We just need an upgrade there. There's no disrespect to him, but we just need an upgrade there. Patrick Omameh hopefully will fill that role. And then we move on to other guys. I'm sure you guys don't really care about these guys' names. Nick Becton, Malcolm Bunch, Zach Karen, Evan Brown, Chris Scott, Victor Salako, and then Nick Gates, who I think is probably one of the worst offensive linemen I've ever seen on tape before. Formerly a left tackle out of Wisconsin. So I think that is all of the offense. Yes, it is. We'll now move on to the defense. I'll switch the picture up so we look at the defense. We'll start off with the 3-4 defensive tackles. We've got B.J. Hill, Kerry Wynn, who will not be a linebacker. He will be a 3-4 defensive end. Kerry Wynn, Josh Banks, and R.J. McIntosh. Pretty interesting how Josh Banks is ahead of R.J. McIntosh, being that Josh Banks really didn't get any playing time last year. He's that more athletic defensive tackle that you see in college and in the NFL nowadays. He's that more slimmer defensive tackle, still big enough to be a defensive tackle and slim enough to play a defensive end type role in the 3-4, which is perfect for him. But RJ McIntosh, I'm really excited about RJ McIntosh. I watched his film. He dominated guys in the collegiate level. Was drafted in the 5th round, complete steal. He dominated guys like Quentin Nelson, that plays the guard, who was drafted number 4 overall by the Indianapolis Colts. So, number 4, I believe. Number 6 overall by the Indianapolis Colts. I believe it was 6. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Nose tackles, Damon Harrison, Robert Thomas, who I think is a great combo there at nose tackle. Then Tyrell Chavez, who you guys know I love me some Tyrell Chavez out of Penn State. And then Isa Lunsford. Don't know too much about that guy, but we now move on to the 3 technique defensive tackles. These are guys that, whether in the 4-3 or the 3-4, will be playing the same position, will be in the 3 technique. So you're not going to see these guys on the edge or completely in the middle playing 0, unless these guys are doing multiple positions in different packages. But as for right now, these are the guys in the 3 technique. Dalvin Tomlinson, Josh Morrow, who's suspended for the first 4 games of the NFL season, and AJ Francis and Christian Sokoli. We now move on to the Sam linebackers, the strong side linebackers, which is weird in my opinion, being that Olivier Vernon is a will linebacker. I would think he was a Sam because he's more of a defensive end. But I guess they're going to use him for coverage. I don't think Olivier Vernon is really that mobile, but I guess we'll see what happens. I know he did some coverage last year. Even he was in the 4-3. Going back to the Cleveland game, ironically, going back to the Cleveland game in the preseason last year, I remember one play in particular. He was covering rookie at the time, David Njoku, tight end out of Miami. And he was covering David Njoku. Actually did a really good job on that crossing route, defending David Njoku. So, interesting how Olivier Vernon is going to be playing the will, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, this isn't the official depth chart. But Kareem Martin is the Sam. Right behind him is Connor Barwin and Romeo Okwara. So, I'm really liking the Sam linebackers. Absolutely loving them. Romeo Okwara, really undervalued at the linebacker position. The inside linebackers, we've got B.J. Goodson, Mark Hertzlick, and Calvin Munson. Don't know why Mark Hertzlick's still on an NFL roster, but we'll see what happens. Then we've got the other inside linebackers. Not sure what that money symbol is. I'm sure that's some kind of code name for something. Money linebackers, I don't know. Alec Ogletree, Ray Armstrong, Tay Davis, and Thurston Armbrister. So I'm liking the inside linebackers just a little. I'm not really too sure about the depth of the inside linebackers, but not that we need too much of them anyway. Moving on, we got the will linebackers, Olivier Vernon, Lorenzo Carter, who I assumed would be a starter in the will with Olivier Vernon at the Sam, but I guess not. And then we have Avery Moss and Jordan Williams. I'm excited about Avery Moss. I really think he could thrive in the 3-4 as a linebacker. I want to see how well he does. I need him to get some kind of sacks. I really like Avery Moss. I really like how he played last year, being that we did go 3-13 last year, so he got a lot of playing time, being that a lot of starters were out, and he was getting a lot of pressure, guys, a lot of pressure. He just wasn't able to get there on the sacks. That's why I don't think he has a sack yet in his career, but he was really able to get some pressure on NFL quarterbacks, so I'm really excited about Avery Moss, former 5th-round pick. We now move on to the cornerbacks. We've got at the starters, we have Janoris Jenkins and Eli Apple. Now, the Giants do not list a slot corner, but they do have Dante Dion and B.W. Webb at the second team defense, second team cornerbacks, which with Dante Dion at second team obviously means he must be playing slot. So he may be our starting slot corner, which when I saw this, I wanted to just scream. Dante Dion is one of my favorite players. I'm a Boise State fan. I loved watching him play. 19 career interceptions at cornerback for Boise State in his collegiate career. Set a school record, I believe, and a Mountain West record, I believe so. I believe it was like 5th all-time or something like that, 3rd all-time in the Mountain West Conference or Mountain West Division. So when it comes to Dante Dion, I'm very excited about him playing in the slot for us. Hopefully he sticks with that. I know he's nursing an injury as far as last week. Hopefully he's good enough for the game. Don't know who's playing, don't know who's not. But as far as I know, pretty much all the players are healthy that we are concerned about. So we now move on to BW Webb. He is our fourth cornerback. Then we have Chris Lewis Harris. Then we have Leonard Johnson, and then we have Grant Haley all the way at the end. A lot of people were excited about Grant Haley, including myself. One of the top undrafted free agents to be signed. He made it to the list of like top 50 free agents that weren't signed yet, and the Giants picked him up because he played so well at Penn State. He's just a smaller cornerback that teams really don't look up to, like a Dante Dion as well. They really don't look forward to drafting them because of their size. But if they're signed to a team, they could really make an impact as a slot corner, or maybe even more than that. So I want Grant Haley to do well. He is the last cornerback on the roster, but like I said, he has pretty much a month to show what he can do in these games and these practices, and we'll see what happens there for Grant Haley. We now move on to free safeties. We have Curtis Riley, and a lot of people were talking to me, commenting on my videos, talking about be careful but with Curtis Riley. He's really making noise, and we're really excited about him. And I was like, Curtis Riley, really? Curtis Riley, we have two really good free safeties in Darian Thompson and Andrew Adams. How on earth is Curtis Riley going to make this NFL roster? Not only make the NFL roster, but start at free safety when he barely got any playing time with the Tennessee Titans. I asked MJ when he was signed, I asked MJ of Sports Fan Entertainment, who is a Tennessee Titans fan, what can you tell me about Curtis Riley? Should I be excited, or is this just another bum, that the Giants signed? And he told me I really couldn't tell you, honestly, because he barely even played. So I was like, wow, that's pretty discouraging. But he's not playing a cornerback as cornerback. He used to be a cornerback, and now he's playing free safety. And I guess he kind of found his position, his niche, so to speak, with the Giants at safety. So we'll see what happens there. Curtis Riley, our starting free safety in this first preseason game against the Cleveland Browns. We then move on to Darian Thompson, who is not looking too good right now. A former third-round pick, another Boise State Bronco I'm really excited about, but he's just not making enough noise, and we'll see what happens with him. But, I mean, he lost his starting role to Andrew Adams. I know he started all the games. I believe I believe Darian Thompson started all the games last year, but Andrew Adams really was playing more, had more playing time, really. I saw Andrew Adams on the field more than I did Darian Thompson. William Gay is now a free safety. He is not a cornerback. It happens with these older guys. You look at guys like Antro Roll. You look at guys like Darrelle Revis. A lot of other guys that you see playing cornerback in their prime. When they get older, they tend to fall back as safeties. Even the greatest to do it, like a Deion Sanders, he played safety towards the end of his career, in the back end of his career. He played safety. It just happens with these cornerbacks. So William Gay, he's now playing safety. We also saw it with Leon Hall, if you guys remember 2 years ago. So William Gay, now a safety. We'll see what happens there. He's third team free safety. Then we have Sean Chandler, who's listed as a free safety, but I think he could play the strong just fine. And then a guy named Mike Bassel. Now to cap off this depth charts as far as the defense goes, then we'll move on to special teams. Landon Collins at strong safety, obviously. Then we got Michael Thomas at strong safety, which is weird because I think he's more of a free. But there's that. And Andrew Adams at strong safety. This is a guy that when we first signed Andrew Adams 3 years ago, I was like, okay, this guy can back up Landon Collins as a strong safety. But then they moved him to free safety. I'm like, okay, maybe he could play free safety as well. But Andrew Adams is a boomer. He plays in the box a lot. I think he's better at strong safety. I don't think he fits the mold as free safety, just not that much, just because he's not as rangy as you want in a free safety. He's not as rangy. He's not able to get to the back of the field that quickly, and I just think he fits more of the mold of a strong safety. So Andrew Adams there at strong safety, I do not complain. I'm not complaining about that whatsoever. And then we have Orion Stewart at strong safety. We now move on to the special teams, if I can get to that real quick. And it's kind of interesting here. I'm not liking the special teams too much. We'll move on. All right, punter, Riley Dixon, obviously. Then place kicker, which is kicker, Aldrich Rosas and Marshall Cone. Holder, Riley Dixon. Long snapper, Zach Diassi, yada, yada, yada. You guys know that part. But here's where it gets interesting. Cody Latimer is our kick returner. The 6'3", like 215 or 220-pound guy at kick returner. I usually like more of the smaller guys to play kick returner, more shifty guys that can burst. That has, good vision and can burst when they do find a hole. But I don't know about Cody Latimer there at kick returner, but we'll see. Then we got Hunter Sharp there. Then we got Khalif Raymond, who just didn't do anything with us last year. I don't know why he's still there. Then Wayne Gallman. I would like Wayne Gallman as our kick returner. He's our third down back. It's not like he's going to be our starting back. He's going to waste his energy after running a kick, then having to run on first and second down. It's not like that whatsoever. He has 2 running backs ahead of him. So I like Wayne Gallman at kick returner. Hopefully he earns that role. And then punt returner, we have Hunter Sharp, Khalif Raymond, Odell Beckham Jr., and Sterling Shepard. Now, there is controversy. We talked about this ever since Odell Beckham was drafted and he started being Odell Beckham. Should Odell Beckham play special teams? My answer when this discussion first started a couple years ago, I was like, yes. Every time this guy is thrown on to play kick returner, he either returns it or gets close to doing that, but there's always a flag there to prevent that. I believe he's had like three or four returns, whether in the kick or punt return game combined, and they've all been called back. It's ridiculous. But Odell Beckham, I want him there at punt returner. It's just the risk of injury. You know, he just came off a huge, devastating injury that kept him out a whole year. We don't want that to happen again. But, you know, he's just such a huge playmaker there. Antonio Brown does it. He just doesn't seem to get hurt. Antonio Brown just doesn't get hurt like that. He usually plays. So when it comes to Odell Beckham, a guy that gets hurt almost every year, that there's always a reason why he's not playing a game every year, it's kind of, I guess, concerning. But we'll see what happens with Odell Beckham. Hopefully he can get some kind of role in the special teams that at least once in a while he can return some kicks. But I don't see it as likely. But I think they're just doing that as a fan service so we don't start complaining, honestly. But because he's the third guy. I mean, come on. If you really were thinking about throwing him at punt returner, you just do it. So I think he will get some time at punt returner in this preseason game. But not too much that I'm thinking about in the regular season. So that is the whole unofficial depth chart for the New York Giants going into tonight's Cleveland game versus the New York Giants. We'll see how it goes. Doesn't really matter who wins, who loses. I am excited, however, to see from Cleveland side. I'm excited to see that whole team being put together. It's a very young, very talented team. They just need to find a way to win. Like I said, doesn't matter who wins, who loses. I really don't care. But I just want our team to do well. I do want to see Baker Mayfield. I want him to do well. I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan. I know it's against our team, but I do want him to do well. And other guys out there, I like seeing Nick Chubb out there. The wide receiver core is looking fantastic. We'll see what happens with Josh Gordon. He's obviously not going to play. I don't think he's MIA. So don't know if he's going to wind up playing. And Corey Coleman's gone, so Jarvis Landry thought he was going to be, part of the best wide receivers in the league, the best trio, but it seems to be just a solo act today and tonight and probably for the rest of the season. So his excitement's for nothing, and we kind of expected that being with Josh Gordon. He always messes up somehow. Dude just doesn't know what he's doing in his life. But we'll see what happens here. Odell Beckham versus Jarvis Landry. Who has a better night? We'll see. And let me know who you guys are excited about coming into this preseason game. I want to hear backup names. I don't want to hear names. I'm excited to see Odell Beckham. No, I want to hear some names. I'm excited to see, I'm excited to see how, I'm excited to see how Davis Webb's going to play. I'm excited to see how Dante Dion's going to play. I'm excited to see Tyrell Chavis at defensive tackle and other guys, other cornerbacks too. Curtis Riley. I want to hear names like that and give me some explanations. Let's start a discussion in the comment section below. So with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.